blog, you probably might have noticed that I had promised a video last week, and that didn't happen. I actually have a good reason why it didn't happen the week that it was supposed to, or last week. And that is, I bit off more than I could chew. Yeah, so the premise of the video that has not been uploaded because I not only had many technological problems, I also had way too much content for it. So my premise was to review 5 Cinderella movies and compare them to the original Grimm fairy tale. And yeah, I got through 2 categories and I was already at 25 minutes. That is way too much, especially for one video. So it will become a bonus series, and I will slowly get to that when I figure out how to mix it into my schedule. Getting back into school after 6 years has been a little challenging, especially considering I have a full-time job. I try to focus on writing at least an hour a day, and then I also have this. So now I'm doing the best I can, and thank you so much for your patience. I will eventually have those up, but not today. For now, I will be sticking to much more manageable and less stressful topics for this channel, at least until I get a schedule going for the bonus content and everything that entails. So without further ado, let's talk about today's video, and that is tropes that I put down and I never finish. Which basically just means if I see these tropes in whatever I'm watching or reading, I am more likely to stop whatever it is and never finish it. I actually pride myself in being able to finish stories and series and movies that don't necessarily fit my realm of entertainment. Case in point, the love at first sight trope. I'm not a huge fan of that. However, I can watch Disney movies that have it, and I absolutely love them. I can read fairy tales that have them, and I absolutely love them. But there are some tropes that do not fit this, and these are the ones that I'm going to be talking about today. There's not that many of them because depending on the ability of the writers, and that includes the screenwriters for movies and TV shows, depending on their skills and their ability to put these in without it being annoying does determine whether I will continue it or not, and some of these do have exceptions, as most things do for me. Everything is subjective. It all depends on the importance to the plot and the frequency at which the trope appears. It also depends on the tone at which it appears. Sometimes these things are played for comedic effect, and I don't appreciate it. Sometimes they're played because it's convenient, and other times it's just lazy writing. Now, to be clear, there are bits of entertainment that I have abandoned, but not necessarily because I dislike what was going on in them. Case in point, Game of Thrones. I actually never read the books, and I also have only watched season 1. But the reason I never continued, part of that was life getting in the way, but the other part is that when it was all starting to get very popular, at least as far as the show was concerned, I was going through kind of some emotional stuff, and then they hit a hiatus, and I never picked it up again. I do plan on reading all the books, and from what I hear, I am probably not going to enjoy the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones, but that's all I got for it. Anyway, at the end of my list, let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, and maybe you have more to add to the list. Who knows? Number 1, rape. Any form of non-consensual sex is no. Any form of it, especially if you're trying to make it into a romantic subplot. That is absolutely preposterous, and no, I don't appreciate it. And yes, I know this is a very common one for people to dislike, for very good reasons. The only exception I will accept for this trope is that if it's a background part of a specific character point and a specific plot point in the story. Characters that have rape in their background are extremely interesting, especially when you consider the psychological effects of rape. But if you're romanticizing it, yeah, no. It's just something that I don't enjoy reading or watching, and most of the things I read and watch don't have this sort of theme. But the things that I do read and watch that have this in it, well, I got 2 things. First of all, do not make it a romantic subplot. If it is not a romantic subplot, I don't necessarily need to see or get the play-by-play in a book to understand the psychological effects of it. I'd rather be in the character's head after the fact and dealing with their psychological problems after the fact, as opposed to actually reading the play-by-play. I can handle that, but I still don't necessarily like it. That's the difference, though. If you're just giving me the play-by-play and not going into the psychological effects, I won't continue. As I said, I don't particularly enjoy this trope, especially if you're going to make a romantic subplot. Number 2, cheating, even if the significant other is in on it. Now, I don't see this too much as far as like the significant other being in on it. Most of the stuff that I like to read doesn't usually involve cheating, but when it does, it strikes a nerve. Now, I'm not saying that cheating is not a very good plot device. It absolutely is. I'm just not a fan, and I don't appreciate that sort of dynamic in a relationship. I think that it's kind of toxic and is not a good precedent. That being said, if it is not in any way a romantic subplot or plotline, I'm pretty much okay with it being in the story. People who have cheated on their significant other aren't necessarily a bad person. They're just really bad at that one part of life. Someone who has cheated in the past could be a very good teacher, or they could be a spy, or they could be a politician. We all know people who have cheated or been cheated on, and I do appreciate this in fiction, that we can explore that. Number 3, political stuff. Politics. I hate them. I think most people can agree that politics are annoying. I'm talking any political stuff as far as current political stuff. I personally don't like stuff that brings division in people, and politics definitely does that. In entertainment, I don't want to hear about your side. I don't care about your side. I don't care which side you're on. I don't want to hear it. Number 4, plot armor. Ugh. Your characters need to get hurt, either emotionally, psychologically, something. How is there a plot without your character getting hurt? So if by the middle of your whatever it is, either a book or a movie or a show, if by the middle your MC has not gotten hurt in some way that is affecting them, either emotionally or physically. 1, I'm not buying it, and 2, I am probably putting this down. I'm sorry, if you are going on a journey, an adventure, if you will, to, I don't know, get the sword of Excalibur. I don't care. Whatever you're doing, you should be getting hurt. The only exception is a god, and most characters are not going to be gods, especially not the MC. Take Hercules, for example, and I'm talking about Disney Hercules for just a moment. He cannot physically get hurt. At least not until the end when he gives up his powers, right? But he gets emotionally hurt, and that's what hurts him. He is emotionally hurt from the beginning. We see this. And yeah, he does get a little physically hurt because, touching rock, even for someone who is strong, hurts. He gets emotionally hurt more often than he is physically hurt. He's often rejected and put down and called a freak. Typical bullying stuff at the beginning. And then he gets emotionally hurt again when he realizes that Meg was in with Hades. Not that she had much of a choice, but that's part of the whole plot of the movie. The point is, he doesn't have plot armor just because he doesn't physically get hurt. He gets hurt in other ways, which is the right decision. This goes back to a whole Mary Sue complex. If your character is too good to be true, that means they are too good to be true. It's not possible for a person to be that great at everything. This also goes for romantic subplots. There needs to be an emotional conflict within that subplot. No, it's not the main conflict of the story, but it will give more of a realistic perspective. It should not be smooth throughout the whole story, and it should never be smooth throughout the whole story. People change and go through things in these stories. The romance needs to reflect that. Number 4, incest. For me, this is just gross, and I know I said that I was going to be reading and possibly watching Game of Thrones. I still intend to do that. I think the reason that I'm not so bothered by the incest in Game of Thrones is because I was given full warning. And honestly, when the scene came on in Game of Thrones, I was definitely cringing, but like I said, I think the fact that I had forewarning about it made it, I wouldn't say better, but bearable, maybe? I don't know. I just don't know. Number 6, child abuse. Whether it is sexual, psychological, or physical, I have a really hard time with reading and watching anything to do with child abuse. I use entertainment as an escape from reality, and that kind of goes along with a lot of the other points that I've made, such as politics or rape. I like happy endings. I know that's kind of a groaner for some people, but I love happy endings because life isn't always happy. And having that happy ending makes me feel better. It's just a personal preference, but when something involves child abuse, it really gets me. Perfect example is I actually love the series Criminal Minds. Anytime there is a child involved, I have probably cried in that episode, watching those episodes. And for Criminal Minds, I have watched all of those episodes and gotten through them. I can usually handle it when it's in shows because it usually involves saving those children from those situations. But when it's in books, it breaks my heart, and I can't really handle it all that well. I just personally try to avoid it as much as possible, which is why it's on this list. Number 7, zombies. Ugh, I hate zombies. And yes, I know it's more of a genre than a plot, but I hate zombies. And it's so much the gross factor, because I've certainly read gross things and not had this reaction. It's not the implausibility, come on, I read sci-fi and fantasy. I am very well aware that most things in these stories are not possible. And I can't even pinpoint exactly what I dislike about zombies. I just know I don't like them. There has been one zombie movie that I have enjoyed, and that was a parody. And for me, what sucks the worst is when something I started to enjoy introduces it, such as Maze Runner. I mean, I never read the books, I only watched the movies. But as soon as the zombies appeared, I was done. I just really don't understand the appeal of zombies. But enough negativity for the day. As always, thank you so much for watching today. I am so excited to continue doing these videos and the blogs, so check back every other Monday on the website, audreybwilson.com, to check out my blogs, and every other Friday to check out the new videos here on YouTube. You can also stay up to date with me on my monthly newsletter. Soon there will be perks to being part of the newsletter, so if you go ahead and subscribe now to the newsletter, you will get those perks as soon as the next one comes around. You can also stay up to date with me on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description below. But until next time. videos here on YouTube.